Okay, we've talked about market economies, free market economies, where competition is important, incentives are important. Adam Smith talks about the invisible hand and this idea of pursuing your own self-interest, private property, freedom of choice, all of those things, versus command economies where the government makes all of the decisions and they own all of the factors of production. There's no incentive to work hard, no competition involved. And so those are two extremes. And we've talked about in the past that no economy exists in a pure command form or a pure market form. Every economy that exists in modern day times is some sort of mixed economy. So we're going to talk a little bit about reasons for the government to get involved. And Adam Smith, who once again is the father of capitalism, wrote The Wealth of Nations in 1776, believed in the laissez-faire doctrine. And a reminder of that, laissez-faire is where basically means just hands off, that the government should keep its hands off the economy, should not intervene in the marketplace. But Adam Smith also acknowledged that there was a need for some limited government. And since Adam Smith's time in 1776, government intervention has increased in terms of how much the government gets involved in the economy. And three primary reasons that the government should get involved is the first one is to provide public goods. And public goods are just goods provided by the government because there is no incentive for the private sector to make. If you think about roads and bridges, it would be very difficult to limit people from using those. Think about national defense. That's an even better example. If we were to ask people if they wanted to contribute to the military, there are some people who live in the United States who would say absolutely not. They would rather not give to that for whatever reason. But if we go to war and our military goes and people fight and die, we have to pay them. And even the people who don't have to pay anything for that would actually benefit. So the roads, bridges, parks, public schools, and we'll talk later about why the government needs to provide these in more detail. But for right now, just know the government needs to provide certain goods that there's really no incentive for someone in the private market, a private business, couldn't make the money in order to do that. Then protecting property rights through laws, and then consumer protection laws. So those are the three reasons why a government should get involved. We looked at the circular flow model the other day, and you saw how firms and households worked together in a factors market and a product market. And so now we're going to look and see how the government participates in this. So in the resource or the factors market, which is your land, labor, and capital, government pays workers for labor. I work for the government. I don't do this for free. So in exchange for my labor, which is a factor of production, they pay me a paycheck. And then the products market, if you look around the classroom, this is a government institution. And so everything in this room, everything in this school, everything in every school and every corporation is a product that government bought probably primarily from individual businesses. So the product market is just the government purchasing goods and services from firms. And then we have this idea of transferring money. The government collects taxes from both firms and households, then transfers some of that money back to businesses and individuals. So businesses will pay corporate income tax, and then the government will take that and give that money to other firms as subsidies to help their business get going. If you see those windmill farms, the government actually gave some of these businesses money to start up these wind farms. Farmers get subsidies, so the government gives them checks. So they take money from other corporations in the form of corporate income taxes and actually gives that money in grants and subsidies to other businesses. And then we as individuals pay money and they transfer that money to other people. You think of the money that we put into Social Security. That money is taken out of our paycheck by the government and they give it to older people. So you have this idea of transfer. Now I'm getting ready to show you a circular flow model, and I don't want you to get all excited because it looks a lot worse than what it really is. Okay, so if you look at the green arrows, that's money. We had households over here on the other one, firms over here. We've just flipped it a little bit, but it's the same principle. What you have here is firms and households on the outside. So a firm, following the green, will give money to the households in exchange for your labor. So you go to work every day, you give your labor to the firm, they give you a paycheck. Nothing's different. And then you give money to the businesses, and they will give you your goods and services in exchange. So those of you who work at a fast food restaurant, you go to work every day and you give your labor. They give you money in return for that. Then on your break or on your day off, you actually go there and you purchase the food there. So you go and you give them money, and then they give you the food back. So this is exactly the same. That shouldn't be difficult at all. The only thing that we're putting in here is these arrows for government, and you'll see several different diagrams of this. So basically what we have here, these are your expenditures looking at the green. Green is money again. So what we have here is the government giving money, and if we follow the arrow, to households in exchange for their labor. I work, I give my labor to the government in exchange for money. And over here we have the product market. The, the government gives money to firms in exchange for products. So look around the room once again, look around the school. The school has to purchase things, so they take money in exchange for products. This is where we have the transfers here. This is where households pay their personal taxes, our income taxes, and that money is transferred to other households, Social Security. And this is where a firm will pay taxes to the government, and then the government in exchange will give wind farms and give farmers subsidies and give grants to different institutions. Do not be overwhelmed by this diagram, and I will give you a couple of more actual hard copy diagrams of this, so don't worry about this. And then finally, I do need to you need to get this information in your notes, comparing mixed economies. And so this is a continuum. We're looking from countries with the most government involvement to countries with the least government involvement. And from the video that you watched the other day, Hong Kong and Singapore have very, very little restrictions, very, very open markets. If you want to start a business, you can. On the flip side of that, make sure you understand there are very few, if any, safety nets. If your business goes under, there are no government bailouts. If you lose your job, there is no unemployment. So on the one side, it's very, very easy to get into these businesses, and you can be very successful and have lots of profits here, but then you can also go bankrupt, and the government is not going to step in. So the farther away we get from this side, this free market, the more government involvement there is. So you'll notice that the United States is down here. This is Great Britain, and you've got Canada right here, France and Peru. So what you have are situations here where the farther away we get, the more in taxes they're going to pay, because the more things that the government provides. They provide more programs. So France, lots and lots of programs that the government provides. And once again, the farther away we get, Russia's government's very controlling. We know that China is a communist country, and we also know that North Korea is probably the most command economy or communist country that's out there. So the government here owns all of the factors of production. Very, very strict, and you have people dying of starvation and things. This whole idea of guns and butter. How do we maintain control? We take all of our resources and use them for guns, and we don't have anything left over for butter.